Hi, I'm Bruce Zawalsky. I'm author of Canadian Wilderness Survival and Chief Instructor at the Boreal Wilderness Institute. And today, I want to talk about an innovative new survival book, which is Bow Drilling by Adam Nestor. So if you like to learn real survival knowledge, then please support me by following me on YouTube and liking this video. So why, when this book showed up at my house this fall, did I fall in love with this book? Because it was so good. Well, the reason is it's a one-subject survival book. This is Adam Nestor's Bow Drilling. 8.5 by 11, 28 chapters, 400 pages, and over 500 pictures. It's an amazing, amazing book that talks about one subject only, but does an incredibly good job of doing it, and that is how to bow drill. So bow drill is a skill that many instructors like to teach. It's an important fire skill, but on my books, not the most important one. But it's also one that's very hard to teach and that many people don't do very well. So what makes Adam Nestor's book so important? Well, I think it's just when you look at the depth of knowledge that he puts in. And as I say, it's 28 chapters, but I want to talk about just a few of them just to give you an idea about how good that subject matter is. So he has one chapter on the spindle, one on the fireboard, one on the socket, and one on the bow. Well, that makes sense because those are the four main components of a bow drill. So you'd expect you'd have a whole chapter on it if you had 400 pages. Well, he has one on the bow string and its and cordage, along with another item that is often left behind, which is the ember catcher. Right? The ember catching is incredibly important. It's how you make this all work. I've seen people do perfect embers and then lose them anyhow because they didn't have everything else set up. And of course, to go with that is tinder. As there's a whole chapter on tinder. Now at the back, he has two other really impressive ones, and that is an entire chapter on how to improve your bow drilling. So somebody like me who's bow drilled before and learned to bow drill and got better techniques over time could certainly stop and say, wow, here's a whole chapter on how I can improve my own bow drilling skills. And another whole chapter on teaching. Of course, I do like the whole thing right at the end where he goes through the steps that you can do. And of course, one of them was prayer, which I think is always when you get to bow drilling as a survival skill, prayer is incredibly important because you're not well off. And as Moore said, carry matches, right? That's just how that works. So let's take a look at the depth of this book. So again, 450 pages, there's a lot of book. And I want to compare it to a few other things just to look and say, hey, who's actually going to teach you knowledge? What kind of knowledge and what kind of depth of knowledge comes in every page of this book? Well, let's look at the chapter on the spindle. So just the spindle itself, 51 pictures, plus a 2-page chart on actual wood types. It takes up 2 full pages showing every single basic wood that you would probably make a spindle out of in North America and how well it's going to work. That's depth of knowledge. That's way more depth of knowledge than you get anywhere else. So let's compare that just to understand. So that is one of the chapters. I'll talk about a couple other little points along the way as well. So this is one of the books that I thought did a very good job, The Ultimate Guide to Wilderness Living by Jerry and John McPherson. And I really liked the book. It came out about 2008. Nice book. One of the first books I saw that really was trying to teach you how to do the bow drill in a legitimate sense. Well, John and Jerry put in 16 pages about the bow drill. And they also go on the hand drill and some other stuff as well, which is all interrelated to that. And they put 33 pictures in. So, good attempt. Absolutely. No problem at all. How about Les Stroud? So Les, who has lit bow drills under stress and with not all the best ingredients and everything else. So he knows a fair bit about that. He had to learn the hard way. Les's book also came out in 2008. He has 13 pages in here on the bow drill with 22 pictures. And one of them includes a little bit about the spindles, which I think is always really, really important. And he talks about spindle length and a few other things, and shows a bunch of spindles he's used or are built along the way, and and the varying sizes. So I want to compare it to one last one, and then we're going to open Adam's book up and take a look, and that is Dave Canterbury's Bushcraft 101. Now, mind you, this book is sold probably more than all these other books and mine combined. So you think, okay, well, it's got to be good then, right? So Dave Canterbury puts less than 4 pages into his book on bow drilling, and only one illustration, which kind of shows a spindle there, and that's the illustration. And he talks about the spindle, and he said, the spindle should be approximately the diameter of your thumb and the length from your thumb tip to the pinky finger with the hand outstretched, or about 9 inches. All right, okay, so there it is. Les says he likes shorter spindles like that, but then points out a full range of other spindles, long and everything else. So we're going to go to the chapter on spindles. Now, of course, here is the full illustrations on how to set that up and do it. And it was just one of the 51 pictures, just one of the 51 pictures on spindles. But when you get to spindle length, here it is. Spindle length, 13 inches. Plus or minus an inch is fine. And you go, ooh, that's way bigger. But then, of course, he explains. A reasonable working length for a serviceable spindle is 13 inches long. I prefer to make the body of the spindle 9 inches long, which is, I think, where they got that 9 inches. And then I allow them another 2 inches of spindle on each end. Thus, the extra wood on the top and bottom end of the spindle plus the length of the spindle will give you 13 inches. Now, here it is. It is better to make your spindle a little longer if you can. A short spindle will make you bend over more when you drill, and you may accidentally scrape your knuckles on your bowstring hand on the ground. In my opinion, the often recommended loose length of 8-inch spindles, which the other inch is the 2 ends, pinky to thumb length, is too short to drill comfortably, but it will work. Plus, if you don't want to run your spindle out of spindle when you get close to making your ember, i.e. you need more usable spindle to make an ember. So what he's essentially saying makes an awful lot of sense. If you want to work harder, then have a shorter spindle. If you're a big, huge guy like Dave Canterbury, you can use brute force to make up for skill. But like I teach when I do strikers, you can overcome strength with skill and brains. Here, Adam Nestor is saying, hey, you can bow drill without brawn. You don't have to be a big, huge person. You don't have to go to the gym every day just to bow drill. Bow drilling isn't something you have to force to make happen. It's something you can build with skill. And that in itself shows how good this book is and what's really in Adam Nestor's bow drilling. The other one I would mention is the sockets. And he talks about a number of different socket types and techniques, one of which, of course, is the bark socket. And you see a bark socket right there because that's my preferred socket. But then I'm not much of a bow driller, and I'm in a set of woods that has a lot of bark. And I like to use that bark, and I use it for all sorts of things. And it was a very simple thing to collect the first time I collected a bow drill. And every time I did it afterwards, I just did the same thing, strangely enough, because it was there. So here you have a couple of really, really good examples of how good Adam Nestor's bow drilling book is. Essentially, it's like this. If you want to learn this skill from scratch, Adam Nestor's book will do the trick. If you want to improve your skills, somebody like me, then read the book from cover to cover. It's amazing. Every time I touch this book, I find more details about one or another subject. It's insane the amount of depth of knowledge Adam Nestor has. He is truly a master of bow drilling. He has reached that level, and he's now, as a master, has decided that he would put together a good book, which a lot of the masters of the craft can't actually do, and give that book back to society so all of us, whether you're a survival or a bushcraft instructor or an enthusiast wanting to learn more, can learn from. If you like bow drilling, buy his book. If you want to learn bow drilling, buy his book. If you teach bow drilling today and you want to improve how you teach and your depth of knowledge on bow drilling, there's only one book to buy, and it's Adam Nestor's Bow Drill. It's the book to want to buy. 400 pages of solid, good, high-quality information about bow drilling, done by a master of bow drilling, with the skill and knowledge that will keep you reading from chapter 1 to chapter 28. And again, if you're ever stranded in the wilderness and you need to bow drill, I highly suggest to follow his suggestion of prayer. So if you like life-saving, useful knowledge that you learn on this channel, then please support me by following me on YouTube, listening and liking other videos on this channel, and by following me on the Boreal Wilderness on Facebook. So thank you, stay safe, and if you're stranded in the wilderness, just remember, stop and survive.